This week's video is sponsored by a Patreon supporter, God Works Out. His YouTube channel delves into atheist issues and critiquing theistic beliefs. Head on over and make sure to subscribe. The mark of a failed ideology is one that refuses to accept any level of criticism. One such religious ideology is that of Islam, which in recent years has been growing more intolerant and violent towards not only those outside the religion, but those within that voice anything other than praise. This week's video discusses violence and intolerance as found within Islam. If we value the freedom to communicate our opinions, observations, and beliefs, we need to speak up and resist those who wish to silence us. Let's begin. Another few months goes by and it seems we hear about another group of extremist Muslims resorting to violence and murder in response to religious criticism. No matter on what side of the fence you sit on regarding Charlie Hebdo's satirical publication, I'm sure that even if you disagree with them, you would not have condemned them to death. Nearly a year ago, 2 Muslim extremists opened fire and killed 12 people and injured 11 more in retaliation for depicting a cartoon of Muhammad on the cover of their magazine. More moderate Muslims, on the other hand, have called for worldwide blasphemy laws, which would make it illegal for anyone to speak ill of their religion. Rather than engage in open discussion and formulate a rational defense of their worldview, it seems that all too often many Muslims will seek to force silence by whatever means necessary. That is a sign of ideological weakness because anything worth believing in can be justified with reason and evidence. In 2012, a poorly written, directed, and acted 14-minute video entitled Innocence of Muslims depicted a critical look of the life of Muhammad, resulted in demonstrations and violent protests, and the death of over 50 people. Fatwas, or death sentences, were called for all the people involved in the creation of the film. Regardless of how inaccurate, inflammatory, or insulting, the reaction by many Muslims, even those considered moderates, was to rise up in protest, violence, and a call for death. In 2005, a Danish newspaper, Jyllands-Posten, published 12 editorial cartoons depicting Muhammad. You guessed it, protests ensued and resulted in at least 200 deaths globally. And why? Salman Rushdie, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Taslima Nasrin, and many others are living in abject fear because they have dared express criticism of Islam, Muhammad, or the actions of Muslims. Additionally, and unfortunately for those of us who value the freedom of speech, many governments and media outlets are unwilling to put the blame at the feet of Islam, the religion, and instead point towards economic and political issues. I'm not naive to think that religion alone creates extremist behavior, but combined with war, economic strife, and a belief that God has given you a manual by which to live and conquer, you create a mindset that has no rational response and thus violence ensues. Now, being publicly critical of Islam unfairly brands you an Islamophobe or racist because it's easier to dismiss arguments supporting the criticism when you label a person a bigot. Attack the character and motivations of an individual rather than deal with the content of their message. I do not think that all Muslims are bad, but I believe the problem lies with acquiring one's worldview from ancient immoral books. We ought to arrive at our ethics through reason, empathy, and a careful weighing of the effects of our actions. Morality evolves over time, and so we retard social progress when we look to the distant past to guide our future actions. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button and subscribe. If you can spare a few dollars to support the efforts of this channel, visit my Patreon page here and become a patron today. Oh, the humanity. This blatant example of the war on Christmas is just one of many examples of persecution against the Christian majority in the United States.